Hi everyone, Dustin here, ADAM Off-Road. Hope you guys are all having a good day. I'm in the garage, and as you can see, I've got the JK here. And as I'm getting it ready for this upcoming camping season, Lensun Solar has sent me this hood-mounted solar panel kit for the JK. I'm super excited to get it installed, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Get it unboxed, and let's just see what it's all about. Now, Lensun Solar is a leading provider of vehicle-based solar panels, and this is their 105 watt solar panel that is specifically cut and molded to the shape of the Jeep's hood. It's pretty well packaged and protected, and if that has anything to do with the quality, we will see. Now in this box, which is 1 out of 3 in total, you're gonna get a few items such as the solar panel itself, the installation manual, some cable zip ties, and some cable hangers for the overall panel's installation. Now the panel's outer materials are designed to safeguard the solar cells to withstand extreme weather conditions such as like high winds, heavy snow, hail, and harsh sunlight. Here in California, we've got very harsh sunlight. So Lensun claims this will provide a guaranteed maintenance-free operation for years to come. What I like the most about this panel is they are ultra light in weight and super thin, about less than 1/8 of an inch in thickness. Just looking at the overall quality of this panel, the cabling and the MC4 connectors all look really good. The panel itself feels good. I flipped it over and looked at the back specification sheet. It's basically the nameplate of the panel. Here you're going to find specific data as to how much this panel can actually produce. Now, every vehicle's hood space will vary, so the size panels and how much they can produce will vary as well. This particular panel can produce roughly 5 amps in the right conditions. Now, of course, not enough sunlight can cause the panel to underproduce, whereas the more sunlight you have, you can get closer to that production rating. Having the ability to capture that energy anywhere under the sun has been far greater than none. Now, during our travels up to the campsite or on the trail, the bulk of our power consumption has mainly been throughout the day on the vehicle's battery system. We're running a fridge, we're running lights, we're charging phones and cameras and all that stuff. And yeah, sure, I take those portable power stations with us as backup power, but being able to charge those during the day for use at night has been awesome for us. So my hopes are that this panel will kind of alleviate some of the loads that are on the alternator in the car's system for our everyday use. So installing a panel like this on our Jeep absolutely makes sense. So I did want to point out that Lensun Solar offers these panels in a wide variety of applications like off-grid systems, RVs and boats, and different vehicles. So on their website, you can select the year, make, and model of your vehicle, and it's most likely they'll probably have something available for you. I've got the whole kit in this video that I'm going to be using, and I've got those boxes over there, so I'm going to go grab those and we'll get them unboxed. This is the vinyl hood decal. Clean the hood and you'll install this. It's wrapped up pretty good. Go ahead and take the tape out and we'll flatten it out. Comes with instructions on how to install that, and that looks of good quality, good material. Yeah, so in the other box we have our 3M tape, and then this box should be the controller. So this is Lensun's Intelligent MTTP Smart BMS Solar Charge Controller, and it's rated for 10 amps, well within the spec for the panel that we're going to be using. It's also waterproof. You can see it's pretty well sealed in the front here where the cables are coming out. The enclosure looks pretty well sealed on the back here. You can see some fins to help dissipate heat. Now on the front here, we've got our outputs to the battery, and we've got this 15 amp protected fuse. The cabling and the cables feel of good quality. We've got some good length here. And we also have some eyelets for connecting to a battery. Now these two wires here are for directly connecting a load through the controller. It's going to be protected with the 15 amp fuse, so whatever you do connect to them is going to be coming off the battery. Now this wire on this side is going to be a temperature sensor, and then we've got our input cabling, the MC4 connectors from the panel into the controller. Now the controller can also be programmed for 3 different types of batteries. Out of the box, the default programming is for gel type batteries, but it can also be programmed for liquid, AGM, and lithium batteries via Bluetooth with their smart app on any mobile phone. So the controller provides lots of opportunity here depending on where you choose to put the power from your solar panel. Now for the installation of this solar hood panel on the vehicle, it's going to be pretty simple and straightforward, yet there is going to be some work involved and some materials needed for the installation. Now, a popular choice for mounting the hood solar panel is just directly on top of the hood's paint. That is going to be more of a permanent use, maybe for an older vehicle, but for those who need a quick removal option, it's better to install a vinyl decal right on top of the hood and then attach that solar panel right on top of that decal. And that's going to be a great option for those who need a quick removal somewhere near in the future. Now on the JK, there are some hood ornaments that we're going to need to remove. To access those, we're going to have to open up the hood and remove the insulation panel on the back side. There are 4 clips, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom corners of the hood. You can use a tool like this. It's a clip removal tool. Remove all 4 clips and then bend out the sheet metal tabs, kind of holding that panel and kind of lower it down. Then we'll have access to remove the windshield bumpers and strap retainer. Just take a 3/8 socket on my driver, buzz those off, and then I can take a needle nose pliers and just squeeze the tabs on the back side of those plastic bumpers, and those will remove as well. Now, to put the panel back on, it's just reverse installation. We'll go ahead and get it up there in position, bend the tabs back in, and reconnect those clips. Now, once we have that all removed, we can lower the hood down and we can clean the hood. I've just got a water bottle like this with some soapy water in it. I cut the top so I can kind of spray the hood and scrub it down really well. Now, the more effort you put into cleaning that hood, the better chances are that decal is going to stick. When you get the decal in the mail, it's going to be rolled up and that memory is going to stay inside that decal. So a few tips is to make sure before the installation you're doing this within a temperature around 50 to 80 degrees. You don't want it really cold. And another tip would be to kind of lay out that decal on the floor. And what I've done is just tape it to the floor and then open up the garage and let the sun hit it for about 30 minutes to an hour. That way you can help relieve any of that memory into the decal. After an hour or so, I'm going to peel that decal off and place it on the cardboard box the panel came in and flip it around and peel off the backing. Now, once the backing is off, you want to be sure not to let any of the sticky parts stick to each other or it'll be a nightmare to separate. Take my water bottle with a lot less soap and spray the back side of that decal and the hood. This is going to allow the decal to be a little bit more malleable when centering the decal on the hood. Now, for the holes on the decal for the windshield washer nozzles, I'm going to use those as a guide to center that decal on the hood. Just be sure to take a few steps back and take a look at the decal and its centering to be sure that's where you want it to be permanently. Then you can go in and start picking up a lot of the water on the top and the sides of the decal. I'm just using these microfiber towels and kind of wiping it out from the center out and surrounding the decal, picking up a lot of the water. And then I'll come in behind with the 3M squeegee, that's this here, that they provided in the decal kit, and kind of just work out any air bubbles or water pockets from the center on out. Now, if any water pockets or air bubbles occur, you can take a small needle and poke a hole through that bubble and just work it out with the squeegee. You can also take a heat gun and apply a little bit of heat. Just be careful not to put too much heat because that will damage the decal. Now, as a reminder, we're going to be putting a solar panel right on top of this decal, so it doesn't really need to be perfect. You just want to make sure the surrounding edges are really nice and secure. And if you're happy with the results and you've allowed the decal to adhere to the hood for about 48 hours, we can move on to mounting the solar panel to the top of that decal. So here's the back side of my solar panel. I've already laid out the 3M double-sided sticky tape. We've just got one side sticking, and I have some recommendations on the best possible chance of getting this to adhere in the most effective way. Now, before you lay down the 3M tape, go ahead and take some alcohol and spray the backside of the panel and just clean off any debris, dirt, or oil or lint. And that just assures the best chance for the 3M tape to stick to that decal. There are 3 holes. These are for the windshield wipers based on the series or model of JK that you have. Now, I do recommend to definitely surround each hole as best as you can with tape. That way, when you're washing your car over time, really don't want any water or mud or anything to get trapped in there. So you kind of want to seal this up as best as you can, and that's the way I would do it. Now, another recommendation is for these turns and these corners. This is not really a square panel. It's got some rounded edges. You just kind of got to get creative on how you're going to make these turns. And so what I've done is, you know, just played around. Here's some examples up on the screen on how to get around the corners and things like that to surround the entire outer edge of the panel. That way no air or anything can get up and kind of lift up the panel as you're on the road or something. We'll go ahead and get the panel on the Jeep's hood. All right, so I've got some rubbing alcohol here. I'm gonna wipe down the decal real good. That way we can get any dirt that's kind of been collected on the decal last couple of days. Alright, so I've just removed my last piece of backing strip on the tape, and we'll take this over to the Jeep and set it on the hood. I did add a few pieces of masking tape, 2 on the sides and then 1 up front. That way it can help me as a guide. I'm going to be using the washer nozzles as another guide, and then we'll just go ahead and lay it onto the decal. There you have it, really nice and centered, using the washer nozzles here as a guide, and then just following the edge around the decal and the solar panel really helped in just centering the panel over that decal. It's recommended that we add some weight to it for about 24 hours to let the adhesive bond to the decal. So I've got some cardboard here. I'm gonna lay it across the top of the panel. In the instructions it says to use some mulch bags, but I'm just gonna use what I have, which are some weights here. And this should definitely be sufficient enough to kind of hold down that solar panel. And I'm just gonna throw this weighted blanket across the top there, and we're gonna have to come back to this in about 24 hours. Now, after allowing the solar panel to adhere to that solar decal, I'm pretty comfortable that it's made a strong, secure bond. Now, there is an additional step that you can take. You can silicone the outer perimeter edges of the solar panel as well as the 3 holes, and that will give you additional sealing of the solar panel to the hood. Now, this is totally optional, and I'll be skipping this step as I feel pretty comfortable with that. Maybe later on down the road, if I feel like I need it, I'll add it then. But we're gonna go move on to installing the controller and button up this wiring. Gonna open up the hood, see if we have the clearance we need. Kind of just lay the cable down into this bed here behind the hinge and buzz this bolt off here. That way I can move this plastic piece over to get the cable through. And I'm just going to use that squeegee to kind of push the cable back behind there. There you go. Bolt back on. Now on the JK, there's not a lot of room to put the controller, and I kind of want to avoid putting it on top of the battery. So I think I'm going to put it right here on top of the cover for the distribution panel. And that'll be out of the way, and I can land all my connections with ease. I was considering using that 3M back sticky tape, but I don't think it's going to stick well, as I do want this pretty secure. So I've got some stainless steel screws that are really small. I'm going to go ahead and just screw the controller onto the cover for the distribution panel. Now, if you decide to mount the controller like I have with the screws, you do want to make sure you don't screw into any of these relays or fuses, as that can be a huge problem. So I'm just double checking. As far as the MC4 connectors, you'll take the male and the female from the controller to the male, and we'll just connect those. And now that we have connection, we can connect the battery. Now, for my battery on the JK, I've already modified the cable clamps, and yours might look differently than mine, but this is what I've come up with, and it's a pretty decent system for landing accessories on the battery. You've got multiple places you can land wires. So I'm just going to take this one off the positive. We'll land the positive right on top of this bolt. And I'm just going to tighten up this wire here so we are good to go. Now, after shortening and landing the battery wires to the battery for the controller, I realized that I didn't leave enough wire to open up this control panel. So I've got a couple options. I can either lengthen the wires, I can remove the wires when I open the control panel, or unscrew these screws and remove the control panel off of the cover of the control panel. Or I can add some Anderson connectors later on, because I don't have them with me, in line to the wires for the battery, and that way I can just quickly disconnect them. So I've got some options. If for now I'm just going to leave it like this, I'll just have to disconnect the controller if I need to get into the distribution panel. And lastly, the two wires here that you can connect a small lamp or load, I'm just going to trim back the wires a little bit, and we're going to put some crimp connectors on the ends there. That way, if I ever decide here in the future to connect a load, I can quickly do that. So I'm just going to put these little crimp connectors on the one side and tuck them away. Going to pinch the other end of the connector and kind of shove it between the panel and the cooling fins on that controller. Tuck all these wires away. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, once everything is properly connected, we'll have some LED light indication on the front of the controller. The flashing green light indicates that the solar panel is connected to the controller and the controller is charging the battery. And the solid yellow light shows that a battery is in the circuit and it's functioning properly. Now, you're definitely going to want to refer to the controller's manual for any understanding or troubleshooting needs, as it clearly shows different faults. The book also shows a table with the meaning for each light and its on and off state, and whether it's flashing slow or fast. Now, the red light that you see that's off, this indicates the load is active. Now, this brings up a neat feature with this controller, which is the ability to manually toggle on and off a device using the smart app. This feature is going to be very similar to like how an S-Pod works, except with this app you can also monitor how much power that device or load consumes. So for example, I have the app opened up here and a test light connected to those output wires. You can see I'm manually changing the state of the test light that's connected to those wires with the use of this app. And it actually gets better. You can also set timers for when to turn on and off the load using the controller's output timer mode profiles. There are several choices. I'll kind of just go over a few. If you choose the standard 24-hour mode, this allows the load to just always stay on, so the red light will be off. Or you can choose something like a dusk to dawn mode. This is where the controller actually senses that it's daytime or nighttime by an increased or decreased voltage input from the solar panel. So this would then allow any device that you connect with to automatically turn on when there is sufficient power being produced from the panel, and off when the panel is not producing, maybe it's nighttime. Now, with that being said, this mode kind of seems like a great match for running an onboard refrigerator during the day, as you'll be able to use that power from the sun to power on your refrigerator, and then you'll just switch over to the battery at night and the load will essentially just turn off. So if you know of any good uses for this function, feel free to drop a comment and let me know, because I'm really curious as to how you would use this or what kind of device you would connect, as there are a lot of options for the user with this controller. Just today, in the short time I've connected the solar panel to the controller, I've already produced somewhere around like 40 watt hours of energy, and the app allows you to monitor this production on a day or month basis. It also includes the total amount of power that the panel has produced, like a year to date, kind of like how an hour meter works, which is also pretty cool. Now, one thing to do right away on the app is to update the battery profile programmed in the controller to match the specific battery type you're going to be using. And in my case, we're just going to be using a liquid type battery. It's just a very common starter battery for most vehicles. This one in my case is for my Jeep. So to get the app for Android phones, you're going to search Life BT in your app store. And for iPhone users, you're going to search Solar Life. You're going to download the app, allow Bluetooth admissions, and then you're pretty much in. You're going to want to click on the solar signal. Now on the top of the screen, you're going to see parameter settings. You're going to want to go into the parameter setting and tap on the battery and change the battery profile to liquid for a basic, like I said, basic car battery. Now, it's important to know what type of battery you have so you can get the correct charge profile. Now, there are a few batteries that are popular. You have the AGM, gel, and lithium. You won't necessarily need to use this system on a vehicle. You can actually use it for any backup battery or dual battery setup, which originally that's what I was going to do. Now, I've always had a question with these is it safe to solar charge a battery while the Jeep engine is running? And I've kind of done some research and I've searched it, and it's generally, yeah, it's safe as long as you can use a proper solar charge controller, the one that can regulate voltage and prevent overcharging. Anytime the controller senses a high voltage from the alternator, it will adjust the solar input to the battery accordingly. So this ensures that the battery doesn't get damaged. Now, properly connecting the charger is crucial. The most modern trickle chargers, have built-in protection mechanisms to prevent overcharging and voltage spikes, so minimizing the risk of damage to your vehicle's electronics, and ultimately this will reduce the chance of having a dead battery. So for my final thoughts, I think that this solar charging system can really help some people, and I think that it's a great idea, and being able to turn things on and off for the app is pretty cool. So the overall installation of this system is pretty simple, straightforward. I think anyone can do this, and I'm pretty excited to see how much power this solar panel can produce this year, with the Jeep being under the sun. So if you're interested in a product like this from Lensun, check out the product links in the description box below. And as always, I appreciate you guys so much for staying till the end of the video and just hanging out with me in the garage today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the trail.